the heat and the...
Bang! Pizza rolls are done.
Okay. Hi guys, it's Kayla here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my June wrap-up, my June 2019 wrap-up. It is, right now I think it's July 6th? Yeah, it's July 6th. So I'm a little behind, but that's okay, that happens. The month of June wasn't as bad as the month of May, thank God. In May I read 1 book, and in June I read 4, so it's much better. That seems to be my average, is 4 books. I seem to read like 1 a week on average. So, you know, that was pretty average for me, so that's good. So yeah, so that was good. I do have a few stats that I want to start the video off with, so we'll just dive on into that. So I've got my reading bullet journal. For the month of June, I read 4 books. So out of those 4 books, two of them were written by female authors and 2 of them were written by male authors. So that was a nice little balance there. As far as genre goes, I ended up reading 1 romance, 1 thriller, 1 murder mystery, and 1 graphic novel slash memoir slash history slash, you know, Holocaust book. It has a lot, it fits in a lot of genres and categories, so yeah. So those are the genres. Total amount of pages that I read was 1,496, which is pretty good. That's a lot of pages to read in a month. So those are the pages, and then as far as stars go, I gave 1 book 3 stars, 2 books 4 stars, and 1 book 5 star. So not a bad reading month. The fact that I like 4 stars and 5 stars are the best. Those are the ones I enjoy the most. Anything less is, you know, it gets bad. But so yeah, so those are just some stats from the month, and I will just dive on in with what I first read. So first, in the beginning of June, I read The Body in the Castle Well by Martin Walker. This was a GOODREADS giveaway that I won, and it was really exciting to win something. This is it's a Bruno Chief of Police novel, and interestingly enough, this is a number in a series. So I think this is like number 12 in a series, including Bruno, who's the Chief of Police guy. And but it works as a standalone because I didn't feel like I missed out on anything or that I needed to read previous books in order to understand this one. So that's good. This is about a police officer, detective. He lives in France in where does he live? Why do I never remember where he lives? He lives in a small town in France, and he's lived there for a while, so he has a lot of friends there and stuff like that. And there is a art student that is studying with the Louvre in Paris, and she is working on I think she's working on her PhD, and she's coming here to this area because she's studying under a benefactor, a guy who he is really influential in the art world, and in his big house he has a lot of very priceless, awesome art, and so she's going there to study under him and to like look at his art and stuff like that. So she's there, and she's really sweet. She's American. Well, she ends up dead in a castle well, in a well in a castle, and it's all about trying to figure out who did it, and if it was even a murder. Like, for a long time, they're like, is this a murder? Is this a accident? Is this a suicide? Like, what is this? So there's that, and then it just takes you like through his police investigation and along with his life, and so you get a lot of French culture, French cuisine. You get that whole vibe, which is really cool. I think that's what I liked the most about this book. This is the book that I gave 3 stars to. I only did that because, I mean, your run-of-the-mill murder mysteries aren't my biggest favorite kinds of books to read. I don't hate them, but they're not my first picks. And this one, there was a few issues I had with it, just that it didn't flow as well as I thought thought it could have. I mean, I have the book review to this book. I'll link it down below because I can explain it way better than I am right now. But yeah, so I mean, it was an okay book. It just wasn't for me. It wasn't my cup of tea. But it was still good. I mean, this author, he's written so many books. So I mean, he's a good author. So yeah, that was the first one I read, The Body in the Castle Well by Martin Walker. The next book I read, what was the next book I read? The next book I read was My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. This book was so good. Oh my god, it was so good. This was a 4-star for me. And oh my god. Oh, so this was a more recent published book. I think this came out in March. This book was very, I mean, I don't have a whole lot of experience reading thrillers, but this is a thriller, and it totally, there were so many times it caught me by surprise. It kept me at the edge of my seat. I couldn't put it down. It was so good. And there were so many times where I felt like I was gonna guess where the story was going. Like, it felt like it was going down a very guessable, generic kind of line, but it never did. It constantly kept throwing me curveballs, and that was awesome. There were so many times I physically reacted to this book while reading it. I was just like my mouth was dropping open. I was gasping and yelling at my book. I mean, it was crazy. Oh, I'll link my book review to that one too down below. But that book was so good. I read it on audio. I heard it on audiobook, read it on audiobook, and I think I read it in a day, or in a couple days. It was so good. I couldn't get enough. It made me want to read more thrillers. But that was amazing. Oh my gosh. So that one's about a husband and wife, and they're very middle class, upper middle class. You know, she's a realtor. He is a tennis coach, he gives tennis lessons at the country club. They live in a very beautiful, big, exclusive neighborhood in the good part of town. And they have 2 kids that are 13 and 14. And, you know, they have a very nice, comfortable life. You know, they're very happy. Well, then you figure out that they murder together. They kill people together. And it's this whole crazy thing. And that's the other thing, is Samantha Downing is so good at teasing you and giving you, she constantly gives you breadcrumbs throughout the entire book, juicy breadcrumbs where you're just like, oh my god, she knows how to keep you on the edge of your toes. She knows how to do it. And I feel like every chapter ends with a little cliffhanger, but it gives you just enough where it's not the cliffhanger you want to strangle. And then the next chapter will change the subject. Oh, but she always answers your questions. I don't know, it's so good. It's so good. So that was a very awesome read. I probably will be reading more Samantha Downing. I don't even know if she's written other books. I need to find out, but it was really good. So 4 stars for her. And then the next book I read was The Hardest Fall by Ella Maise. I think it's Maise. I'm gonna have to check my Goodreads again. It's either Ella Maise or it's Ella Maise, M-A-I-S-E, Ella Maise. So this book was a contemporary romance, and this book was so good. I gave it 4 stars. It was such a good love story. It was a slow burn. Oh my gosh, this was a slow burn, and it was a great slow burn. I think I read this within 24 hours as well. This was one of those where, I couldn't put it down. So it is about a girl, and her name is Zoe, and she is in college, and she's studying photography, and she has this run-in with this guy named Dylan. Is it Dylan? Why can't I've read so many romance novels that I'm getting confused. Yes, Dylan, I was right. So, she has this meeting, this really funny, awkward meeting with this guy named Dylan, and he plays for the football team, and that's his goal. He wants to play for the NFL, so football is his life, right? So, this book had so many opportunities to be cliche, to be very just not good, but it was really good. It was really good at not forcing characters into stereotypes. So like when I think of like, you know, a football player in college trying to go to the NFL, I have a certain stereotype in my head. I do. And she did not push her characters into that. So I'm really happy with that I really loved these characters. I loved their personalities, and I thought they were real well-rounded people, unique people. They were believable. There were a few times that the book got a little cheesy. There was some times where I think it was mostly with the dialogue. You know, it didn't happen all the time. It was only a few times where it got a little cheesy, but that's kind of okay for me. It doesn't bother me as much if it's done okay, which she did, because the storyline was so good, the slow burn was so good, the sexual tension was so good. It was all just really, it was really, really well done. So I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. I couldn't put it down. Like I said, it wasn't a perfect book. You know, there were a few things that happened that I wish would have been more expanded on. But as far as the actual relationship and the problems and stuff like that, it was good. I enjoyed it. It was a really good romance. And after that, I was like, oh my gosh, now I'm so in the mood to read all these romances. I've been trying to read so many romances. I've DNF'd, I can't tell you how many books, and then I forced myself to finish this. It's basically one book, but it was published in a series kind of thing. I think they were like little novellas, but they were all together. I don't know. I forced myself to finish it because I was sick of DNFing. So when it comes to romance, it is hard for me, contemporary romance. When it comes to contemporary romance, it is hard for me to find a book I enjoy. 4 or 5 stars. It is so hard for me because for me, I guess I'm so picky. Like, I'm picky when it comes to writing, when it comes to tone, when it comes to dialogue, when it comes to characters, when it comes to tropes. I mean, there's so many. If there's one thing that's too, I'll DNF it. I'm so particular when it comes to romance, and I don't know why. So, you know, but that was a really good book. So I gave 4 stars for The Hardest Fall by Ella Maise, one of them. The last book I read in June was Maise by Art Spiegelman, or The Complete Maise by Art Spiegelman. This book was my 5-star. Oh my god, it was so good. I loved it so much. I'm so glad I finally got around to reading it. This has been on my TBR for a long time, and I finally forced myself to read it. And oh my gosh, like, this definitely adds to my, like, what do you call it? Like, my mental library that contains stories of Holocaust victims, you know, people, just their stories, you know. Each family had a story, and it's crazy that, like, each story can be so different but also so similar, and that's what happened to this family, you know. This book is it's a graphic novel, and it is about a son named Art and his father, Vladek, and throughout the whole book, you get 2 storylines. So one storyline is of Art and his father, and Art is a graphic artist, and like, he's kind of like telling his story of how he wrote this book, basically. And we see his very strained relationship with his father, and his father is recounting his own experience during the Holocaust. And then we get that storyline. You know, I feel like is the largest storyline, but they're both so interwoven and so important, and it's beautifully done. So we get Vladek, his father's story of what happened in the Holocaust during World War II, and what happened to his family, and the things that he had to suffer through, and the things he had to see. It was crazy, and it was genius on his part that Art Spiegelman made the Jewish people mice. As far as like the drawings go, he made them mice, he made the Germans cats, and he made Polish people pigs. And it also seemed like the Americans were dogs. So there was like, everyone is an animal, right? And there was all different kinds, but the the mice, the cats, and the pigs seemed to be the biggest key players in this book. And this book is amazing. I mean, it won a Pulitzer because, I mean, it so deserves it for so many reasons. It's very honest, and the truth is not always pretty. The truth is ugly a lot of times, and he tells ugly truths, you know, and it's so good. It's so worth it. I think everyone should read this. It really gives you a good idea of what happened during the Holocaust and how horrible it was. And it also told the story of Art Spiegelman, you know, surviving his father, who is a survivor, you know, because the people who came back, a lot of times they were so different, so broken, so changed and traumatized that in this specific case, his dad was really hard to live with. Very hard. And his mom, spoiler alert, his mom committed suicide. And this is something you find out like the first couple pages in the book. So, I mean, it's not like a huge thing in the book, but his mom, Art's mom, commits suicide later, you know, after she has Art, I think when Art's 20. So there's a lot of pain and suffering in this family, and it's the story of that next generation of people who came from the survivors of the Holocaust. And there's just so much, and there's so many beautiful quotes, so many sad moments, you know, and then the drawings were just amazing, and oh, it was so good. It was worth 5 stars. I'm so glad I finally read this. And I'm not a huge graphic novel reader. I don't have much experience. This is my second one I've ever read, and I really enjoyed it. You know, in the beginning I thought that when I was reading the story, I was like, oh, I don't even think I need these images. Like, they don't add anything to it for me. Not true. I kept reading, and it did add a whole lot to it. It's necessary. So yeah, that was Maise, The Complete Maise by Art Spiegelman. So yeah, those were the 4 books I read in June, and that's not terrible, you know, I've done worse. If you've read any of these books, let me know, or any books like it, or any opinions you have. I like talking about this stuff all the time. So yeah, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I have a couple links in my description box of stuff I talk throughout the video, and links to my social media, my Goodreads, and my Instagram. Those are the ones that I'm always on, but Twitter, I'm still trying to get on there. It's so hard for me to establish a routine when it comes to Twitter. So I am on there and I read things, but I rarely post. I don't know why. So yeah, if you want to follow me on social media, those are the social medias. And yeah, so I hope you like this video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. And so the next book I read was The Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. No, not The Lovely Wife. I'm sorry, I've read so many romance novels recently that I'm just getting